Hi, good morning. This is Koray Murad. Hello from the London Fire Brigade. And I'd like to talk to you guys about fire safety. First of all, what we're going to talk about is smoke alarm, what we have or what we should have in our houses on the ceiling. So let me just grab a smoke alarm. Should look like this, but remember it's reversed. But I'll take out a box, and what the fire brigade does, they come around your house and then they fit these. That's better. No, that's it. Yeah, they fit one of these smoke alarms in your house. You see the big button in the center of it there. It's a simple device to use. So basically, while that's on your ceiling here, any smoke that comes out from it, I mean, even sometimes dust particles as well that comes out, we'll hit these sensors in here, sometimes here as well, but mostly around the sides as well. You see them as well. Triggers the alarm goes off, and all you have to do is hold that button, press it for about 2-3 seconds, it resets it. But what we do recommend is weekly, if not possible, at least monthly, test your smoke alarm by holding the button down for 3 seconds, testing it. It should go off. I know it's irritating, but the whole idea of it is to be irritating so that you can wake up. What we do say as well is try once a month to get your Hoover and hoover the little hole just to clean them, but sometimes dust builds up in them. It'd be tricky around the side doors, but don't worry about that. If you can, that's fine, but if you can't, that's fine too. But try to get your Hoover and just suck around the areas of these and this one here as well. If you don't have a smoke alarm, you can always contact London Fire Brigade. I'll give Anne or Premilia a telephone number, which you guys can contact and ask for the telephone for the London Fire Brigade to come around and to fit a smoke alarm. What they do is you phone them up, ask them that you want a smoke alarm installed in your house. They will make a date with you. What date and time is convenient for you? They'll arrange it. Then they'll send your local fire station to your house or flat and install one of these. It's only a few minutes, but what they do is they have a little piece of A4 paper which they ask you a few questions. It's just so that we've got an idea of, if they're attending that property, what we how many people are involved in there, what we need to look out for. It's like a little early notice for us. That's why they ask all these questions, and also at the same time you can ask questions to the firefighters. Anything you're not sure about, anything you feel which is do you feel is going to be a fire can be a fire problem for you. Anything you're not sure about, feel free to ask the firefighters and they'd give you the information. They'll also ask to look around your property as well, just to look at the plugs on your wall. They're looking for overloading and all these sort of things. One of the things we do mention to you is, I'll just get a picture of it, is, if you can see that picture there, is one of these adapters. We won't say to you don't have it, but we don't recommend them, because the problem with these is you can see the way the plugs go in, right? What happens is when you put the plugs into them, they put the weight on there. See the plugs, see the pins that go into the socket. Where they have the weight on them, it pulls it out a bit, and these pins, they generate heat from electric. And what happens is gradually in time, they start melting around plastic, which is, whether you plug it in, they're all plastic, aren't they? So it starts generating heat around there, which gradually, it's a slow process, but within time, if it's not, looked carefully or observed, you can actually create a fire. So we don't advise you to have these. We do recommend is one of these ones. These are long adapters, and you can put the plugs on them. But you can get some where they've got these little safety cutoffs or single turn on and off switches on them as well. They're good as well. But that's what we advise. So if you ain't got a smoke alarm, up and around, right? If you ain't got a smoke alarm, feel free to contact London Fire Brigade and ask them to have one. Have a firefighter come around your house and install one. We'll move on now. There's another type of alarm, which is a carbon monoxide. Have one, but we don't in the fire service provide them either. You'd find them in Halfords, B&Q. I've got a picture of what it look like, which is this one here, and these are the ones that you put in your kitchen. How they work is your boiler most of the time is in the kitchen. I'm not in every property, but where your boiler is, you'll put this carbon monoxide alarm near where the boiler is, and that, should it be leaking, because it's a silent gas that you can't smell or nothing like that, but what it does, it puts you to sleep, and gradually it's not a nice ending. Basically what this does is, should it be leaking, it will warn you. This alarm goes off, you need to turn off all your gas in the house. You need to contact the gas company who you're with, the emergency, and have them come out and deal with your boiler or wherever the leak is. Let them come around and find it. If you call the fire brigades, they will attend as well, but we don't have the equipment like what the gas people have. So it's better to get them. But what you don't do is all your light switches. If you've come home, you've been out and you've come home and the alarm's been going off, do not touch your light switches. Your light switch, when you turn them on, they create a spark inside it, which can trigger, if there's a load of gas in the place, could trigger the gas in the property. If you come home and you can smell gas, open the windows if it's possible. I repeat that, if it's possible, open the windows. If you can't, if you're afraid to go into the property, do not go inside. Stay outside. Go to a neighbour's house. Contact the gas people to come around and explain the situation and tell them it's an emergency, and for them to come around and fix the problem. Whether find out what the real cause is, repair it or resolve it, or whatever. These alarms, you can find them in those shops, like I was saying to you, B&Q and Halfords, and some other places as well, even on the internet. I do recommend you getting one of these and putting it in your property. I do recommend it. We'll move on now to put stuff in your property. So let's talk about candles. You know how lovely they are. They are nice. They're nice. They're very nice, and they put a nice little light in the room. And, it's quite soothing and relaxing as well. Candles are lovely things, but the problem with candles is people sometimes they leave them, and that's when the dangers can be, when they leave them on their own. So what we recommend is, those big ashtrays, large ashtrays, yeah, or maybe a little pot or something like that. A little bit of water in there, put your candle in there, and obviously never leave it on its own. What that will do is the water in there should some like like the tea lights, those little ones, they generate heat. The water in there will reduce that generation of heat and will keep it cool, and that's why we just recommend put a little bit of water in there in that large ashtray. So should it even fall over, it doesn't fall out, it falls inside there. That's the whole idea of it. And there's a little bit of water in it, it'll extinguish it. So you're preventing any chance of a fire. And most of all, never leave it on its own. Never. Then we'll talk about heaters as well. I mean, I guess some of you got heaters in your, I mean, winter, of course, you know, you may have little portable heaters. I know most properties now have the radiators in their house, but there's still some who do not have that. And they work with the heaters, you know, like your small little ones that can be moved around and everything, lovely little things. But never keep them too close to, you know, like curtains. And sometimes people put their clothes on it and dry their clothes or and these sort of things. Never leave them on their own, you know, or never block them over, you know, bombard them with too much stuff to put on them. Try to keep them, try to give a distance between anything that you're trying to dry with them. I mean, should you be drying stuff? But if you're generally just using it for heating, you know, make sure that you know, it's not too close to you either, but it's not too far. And it's like, how can I say, in a room, have it, shall we say, be 3 foot away from the wall, or this sort of distance, and not too close to you. I don't want to make it too complicated or too complex, but basically just keep it not too close to anything that can eat, if that makes sense. Yeah, of course, use them because it's cold, but when you're finished with it, switch them off before you leave the room. And that way, you know, you're preventing any chance of a fire or anything, or something generating heat, and then gradually. I mean, with the heaters, they're not really the sort of thing that can cause fire, but through an error of it can create. But the chances are slimmer than a fireplace. I mean, nowadays, most modern properties don't have a fireplace, but some of the old properties do. And with the properties with fireplaces, with those, definitely keep things away from the fire. Definitely, because that's the big source of igniting stuff that can burn, and you don't want that. And so with those in mind, always turn them off and keep anything, even if you're trying to use them to dry stuff, never keep them too close to them. Never keep them too close. I like to go on to talk about part of the things that when the firefighters come around your house and they look at your, I just to mention this bit as well, when they come and look around, they look at your electrics as well, if you're overloaded and everything. And like I was saying, you have the plugs like this, and we don't recommend it. I've got a picture here of what can happen as well. This is, I don't know if it's a clear picture or not, but you can see where it's plugged into the socket, and you can see the plugs on there, and this is the adapter itself, the square box adapter, which we don't recommend. What happens is gradually with time, when with the weight of these plugs on there, it sort of pulls it out against the wall, pulls it out, only a little tiny gap or anything like you want. Sometimes you won't even notice it, right? There's pins that go into the wall plug, the socket here, that generates heat, and gradually with time, like I was saying, slowly it could build up. So we don't recommend them, but this is the sort of stuff that this is the sort of thing that could happen. Another thing, I'm going to show you a picture of this as well with plugs as well. Make sure if you have a plug like this where the wire is actually hanging out, that's a no-no. You don't use that. You get it mended, or you just don't use it at all. Same here as well. That's splitting that there. Where it comes. This one's actually a little burnt mark, so that's definitely a no-no. That's whoa. And this one is you can see where the wire is hanging out. You can actually get a shock from that as well. And then there it is again, the plugs we don't recommend. just get the long adapters, and that would be fine as well. That'd be a good thing for you, you know, to prevent any cause of a fire or any risks. I'd like to move on to some people will have sight and hearing problems or difficulties, or even mobility difficulties as well. And this alarm, upside down again, there it is. This alarm is not appropriate for people with hearing or there's a different type of alarm for people with hearing and sight difficulties. The alarm actually, how it works is they give you this extra. It's like an alarm. It's like similar to one of these again, but obviously this is being on the ceiling. But it has a separate unit which is put under your pillar. So, and basically what that does is it vibrates. So obviously when you're in your dream, you're having a nice dream, sleeping, should the alarm go off, it sends a signal to that unit under the pillar that starts vibrating, basically waking you up. And then you need to leave the house or your flat or your property. You need to leave. One thing we do advise as well is should you have to leave your property, you know, because the alarm's gone off, there is actually a fire, and your best way is to get out. Make sure there's no obstructions to your escape route. Make sure there isn't. If you live in a flat, or if you live in a house, or let's just say if you're living in a flat and your alarms go off, you find that you're trapped and you can't get out. Make sure always for your nighttime routine, make sure that you've always got a mobile phone next to your bed. If you have locks on your windows, make sure you got the key for the locks for your windows. You might be living on the ground floor, first floor, and you may lock your windows. Make sure you got the key for those locks, because if you can't get out, at least what you can do is you can shut the door what you're in, the room that you're in. With your mobile phone, dial 999 and ask for the fire service, fire brigade, and they will ask you on the phone, whereabout are you in the property? You can give them all that information, how many people in the property with you, where exactly you are in the property. You can give them all that information. But what you can do is you get a blanket and you place it under the door to prevent smoke from coming in. In general, if you have a fire door in your property, it should give you about half an hour to an hour before the fire can get through. So that you got a bit of security there as well. Then obviously with the key, if you have the key and your window's locked, you'll be opening the window and you can shout out, help, there's a fire in your property, to get neighbors to turn around and be informed on what's going on. They could be contacting the fire brigade as well to come down. And also that you'd be pinpointed where you are as well, that way. If you have other people in your property, like family, children and everything like that, if you can, you'll get into one room. This is only if you can't get out. But obviously, if you can get out, definitely get out. But if you can't get out because your entrance is blocked from the fire, or you're living on a high 8th floor, then take these measures, which is mobile phone, all the doors are shut if possible, all your other room doors are shut. This reduces the oxygen traveling around the room. Mobile phone next to your bed, keys to any windows. If you have children as well, your access to your children is all clear. Most of all, your exit routes, all your routes are to be clear. So do not put obstacles in your hallways, because if the alarms go off through panic, you can make a mistake of hitting it, dropping over, falling over. Anything can happen. So that's why you need your clear. You need it clear so that you can turn around and you've got a clear getaway. If you can't get away and you've got kids with you, take all your family into one room, if possible, and it's if possible, to the front side of the building. If you're in the house, to the front side of the building, because it'd be more easy access to put a ladder up and get everyone out if need to be, that route. Otherwise, through control, they'll turn around and ask for your location, like I was saying, and they will inform the fire service en route where exactly you are, so they don't lose any time of getting to you quicker. I'd like to move on to talking about where keeping your exit routes clear. I want to talk a little bit about hoarding. Yep, that's right. Hoarding, where some, don't get me wrong, I've got my own little valuable stuff as well, and people like to collect stuff, and yeah, the only time collecting stuff can be a problem is when your house or your flat is overrun by it. I don't mean it in a horrible way. I don't mean it, everyone's got different values, and they hold different values to things, and that is totally understandable. But just consider anything in your house that generates heat, like plug sockets, like your radiators or anything like that, and you're collecting stuff, don't put them too close to that. And like I said earlier on as well, you're collecting your stuff, okay, but try to leave exit routes for yourself should you need to get out. Oh, and definitely this way up is right. One of these as well in your property, or two, depending on the size of your property. Definitely that. I'd like to go on to with rubbish fires. I mean, this is totally outside the building now. Have I got anything else? I just want to show you before I go on to rubbish fires. There you go, little rubbish fires. Right, before I go on to that, I just want to show you something. When you're using your plugs in your house, and you leave some things on for a long time. Fridges, they're fine. I mean, they're designed to be left on for a long time. But what we advise is if you're going to use sockets like I showed you earlier on the adapter, the long one, like one of these, this is acceptable as well, because the line itself, as in the wire, is free. It's not wrapped up like as one of these ones inside. The problem with these, I mean, these are great. They're long and all that sort of thing, and they've got 4 on there as well, and a little button, right? And you can wind it. That's very good. But these are good for short-term use or something. Maybe you need an extension to do your drilling or something, or cut a bit of tree, and you need a machine for it. That's fine, but do not use these for your fridge, your washing machine, your TV. These things, where the wires are wrapped up, obviously, as you plug this into the wall, you now got current running through, the electric current running through. This generates heat through the line. That generates heat through the lines, and you can imagine all this line, all this wire in there is wrapped up. I mean, it's a little clear bit of it there in there already, but it's all wrapped up, right? So you can imagine now where it's wrapped up, there's generating more heat. So to generate more heat, this could, I mean, the condition of it, how long you've had it, you know, the standards of it, has it got the kite mark, is it a genuine product? All that's got to be considered as well. And it's like, it's better to be safe by just using this for short things than to turn around and just use it for a long-term thing, like your fridge, like your washing machine. Do not use it for those because they generate heat and they could, I'm not saying they will, but they can ignite, catch on fire. So these are, they're good, but only for short-term use. Obviously, pull it out. If you've got no choice and you had to use one of these, pull all the wire out. If it's a long-term thing, like a washing machine, if you had to, because you've got nothing else, circumstances, however, pull all the wire out and leave the wire on. Obviously, don't make a trip hazard from it. I mean, you know, but as long as all the wire's not wrapped up in itself to generate that heat, pull all the wire out, and that will give you your more safe. It'd be more safer to use for a long-term thing, but try not to use it if you can. And with fans, I've got a fan that was it was caught on fire, and they actually made. This is how a property in one property. This was how it started. Was from the fan. So they got the fan on. It was cold, and they had the fan using it as normal. This is why you shouldn't leave the fan on its own to generate heat. This is what this one came out of. This was in the property, used as a normal heating fan, giving the heat and everything. And obviously something's happened inside there, caught fire, and it's set on fire, which started to go out of control and setting other parts of the property on fire as well. I'll show you the back as well. So yes, I mean, don't get me wrong, heating, we need it because it's cold, especially in the winter, but keep an eye on it and never leave it on its own. Ooh. So going back to rubbish fires, rubbish as in leaving rubbish out. It's a normal thing, you leave your rubbish out and then the bins sometimes get full up and you start leaving it on the side of the road and everything. But just consider this. Doesn't always happen, but we have been attending them as well. It's where people see the rubbish bins on the floor and think, I know, I'll set it on fire. In their view, it's a joke. They set it on fire. But those rubbish there, you see those rubbish there. You see, if you see them, they're lined up next to the building here. The property, all right, this is brick wall which generates heat from when this is on fire, right? The brick wall generates heat. The window there, we don't know whether it's open or not, or even if it's not open, from the heat can break the glass, can get inside, and the fire can travel inside the property if it's not dealt with sooner. People see that and think, oh, I know, and have a little laugh, and then they set it on fire. But what we recommend is try not to leave rubbish next to the property. Obviously, you know, if there's a big bin, and hopefully there is one around your side, dump it in there. But try not to leave them next to the properties, and try not to let them pile up like this. That's definitely a fire hazard, which could spread into the property. I just want to talk about this one because this one, we experienced this quite a lot. It's worded as park wisely, but if you obviously you see the cars there, you see the little gap there. People cars and they just just park their cars and they get out of their car and they just go home and everything. But what people do not think about is if there was a fire here, can the fire engine or can the fire service get down there? They don't think about these sort of things. And so they just park their cars. And how many times have been to en route to a fire, and the roads that we have to use, vehicles are parked like at angles. Even the slightest angle means the back or the front of the car could be sticking out, which reduces the road even more, which makes it more difficult for a fire engine. Sometimes we have to reverse out, or we have to turn around and try and ask people to, could they move their vehicles? And obviously we've lost time. Park wisely. I mean, if you could spread the word as well, like, you know, if you, people parking up, or just to have some consideration of when you're parking, can a fire engine or any emergency vehicle get through this? That's one thing I would just want to put out there as well. We can talk a little bit about purpose-built flats and masonettes, and I've got a little list here of stuff like, you know, if there was a fire, do you have a plan, and this sort of thing. If you can get out, get out. Most of the, mainly these properties, flats, they're built in a structure where they're like individual concrete rooms, if that makes sense. So basically what that is to do with is to prevent, if there's a fire in one place, to prevent it from spreading, as in going through the walls and then spreading into the other parts of the property. Obviously, sometimes it doesn't work like that because you've got voids, and you've got the way the maintenance of the building is being dealt with, and you know, especially with voids, it allows the smoke to travel, which generates heat, traveling in different parts, and the heat as well can carry the fire over, and can, you know, carry it from different locations of the property. So we do recommend is that you get out your property if you find that there's smoke coming into your property. If you've got smoke coming to your property, there's a property near you, and you're not sure, then obviously grab everyone in your family and then leave the property and make your way out. When the fire service is there, they will tell you when to go back into it. I mean, obviously, when it's safe, they'll tell you to go back into your property. But otherwise, you know, for safety first, if you feel you're uncomfortable, make your way out. I'm sort of coming to the end of the stuff I have for you guys. I have something here about electric blankets. I mean, winter electric blankets is nice, isn't it? But what it says is anything that's 10 years old or any signs of wear and tear is a no-no. You shouldn't use it. Replace it. When you're buying a new electric blanket, ensure it has an overheating protection on it as well. That's a good thing. So basically, when it gets too hot, it cuts off, and you know it can't go beyond that. It can't get too hot, and then it get too hot on you either. It has a British Standard kite mark on it as well. And it says here to be checked by someone who knows, or like an expert, or an expert once every 3 years, or which is recommended by the manufacturers. It says don't fold electric blankets. Don't leave an electric blanket switched on all night. And it says don't use never use hot water bottles in the same bed as an electric blanket. I think I don't know. I think I've run out of stuff now. I think that's everything. If
that's
there's
fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. I was thinking maybe Mary Hiscott might have some questions for you.
If there's any questions, please feel free to ask, and I'd be happy to answer them.
I can also say that if we've got any questions following this, then they can always email us and we can get back to them with some answers. So
definitely,
I'm going to stop this recording.
Before you stop this recording, Anne, just one more thing I want to say out here. I'm going to try. I'd like to give 2 more of these Zoom meetings again in this year. So we'll spread it out. So one sort of mid 2022 and one so basically towards the summer, around about the summer season, and maybe October, November time again. I like to give one. I mean, obviously, if it's all right with you guys, I like to give 2 more just to turn around in the summer things that people can do, and in the winter what people can do. If that's all right with you lot.
I think that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was going to, did you speak? Sorry, I came late to the webinar, but what about fire angels on the wall? During the storm, my fire angel started beeping and now it isn't. Does that mean I should change it, or it's weak or not?
Do you get, let me ask you this question. Do you get little chirping sounds? It sounds like a little bird. And like every minute or every minute and a half or something.
Yes, I do, yeah. But not now, but for about half an hour during one of the storms, I did get that beep, and then it's gone now. But should I worry about that? It might not be good now.
No, you don't need to worry about that. What you can do is, are you at home now?
Yes.
Okay, so in your time, what you can do is, did you see that little button there?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have one of these alarms? If you don't have one of these, the old ones sometimes has a little red button. It's smaller than this.
I think
hold that button. Yeah, hold up. If you can't reach it, the ceiling's high.
Yeah,
broomstick, mop hands. Yeah, broom handle, mop handle, walking stick. These are all things that you can turn around and press the button with.
I see. I didn't know that. Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. And then so press that button for 2 to 3 seconds, and it should go off. It should be annoying. It should go off, and you know that it's working.
Okay.
If it doesn't go off, right? Try again, but hold for maybe 5 seconds. If it doesn't go off, then I'll be leaving a telephone number with Anna and Prem to this number. You can call, ask them to put you through to the fire alarms. The smoke alarm. What they do is they will make a date with you that they will come around and replace your alarm or maybe update them.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, that's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. It's better to have the alarm in your house or flat. You know, obviously, if you've got one, it should be working as well.
Yeah. Yes, that's what and the same, I guess, for the toxic fumes. They also work the same, do they?
These ones are late. I'll say that. No, it's right around. These ones are our latest ones, and they're not as sensitive. You know, like when you're cooking, the alarms used to go off. I mean, obviously, if it's next to your kitchen, your kitchen's here, it's gonna. If you're sometimes people in a studio flat, their studio flat is. Their kitchen is basically part of the sitting room as well. So they've got one there and then it goes off. These ones are not as sensitive. They are very good because they have 10-year life battery. I forgot to mention actually. They have 10-year life batteries in them. You can't get to them. Should they be chirping, like little birds chirping, that means the battery's finishing. Yes, it's finishing. The battery's finishing. You can't take the battery out. What you have to do is contact the fire service. They come down and come round to your property, and they just not even 2 minutes. Took that one off. Took put that next one on. Finish.
What does it?
You can ask them questions.
So the fire department will just exchange what you've got. Yeah. Oh, I see.
Yeah. So they'll take the old one away. If you've got the old ones, they will say they will recommend to put the new one. Let's put the new ones on, and you can say yes, and you can say no. It's all down to you at the end of the day. They will recommend you to. I mean, if your alarms are old ones, they will recommend putting the updated new version ones.
Yeah. No, mine's quite small.
And it's better. Yeah.
Mine's quite small, actually. Yeah. Is that true for both for the toxic monoxide as well as the flames?
No, they're separate. They're two separate things. Don't get confused with them. You know that the one in your hallway may not look like this. It might be the smaller, older version one.
But I have, yeah.
I think it's actually good for you to turn around and contact the fire service to install the new. All they do is, it's got on the back here. It's got a cover.
All right.
That cover, they glue it to your ceiling.
Yes.
And then, so that sits like that now. It's glued to your ceiling. And then, say the battery's fading away, finishing, they just go like that, put it off, and then put the new one on. There we go. It's there. Finish.
All right. So
and also, they'll put it in the right place for you as well.
Good. Thank you.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Does it have a special name, or I don't need to worry because the fire department will know which one it is? Yes.
Yeah, you just they'll ask you questions like your well-being. Do you have any hearing issues? Do you have visual issues or mobility? Then that way they can give you the certain. There's different type of smoke alarms. Okay. There's different types of these. You know, like I was saying, for people with hearing issues, you have a thing that you put on your pillar. So when you contact them, they will find all this information. They'll ask you questions like, you know. And also, when the firefighters do come around your house and they install it, they will set the alarm off and ask you, you know, did you hear that? They may not always ask you if you heard it, because they'll see in your face expression that you have heard it. But some people will ask you that, did you hear that? Was that comfortable? It's not comfortable. That's a wrong word. Did you hear that? It's definitely, was that a yes or a no? And if you've heard it, that's what it should be doing. You should be hearing it. If you can't hear it, then they go to the next stage, which might be the smoke alarm with people who have hearing difficulties.
Thank you.
Only you know that. No, it's a pleasure.
Good, because there's quite a few of them, but now I guess the fire department has honed it down to, as you've just told me, to which one you should use.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they'll ask you the questions on the phone, and you turn around and say to them, "This is how I am. This is my conditions," and they will bring the right. They'll look at the fire station nearest to where you live, and then they will assign that. So, like, say you booked it for next Thursday, for example, at a time, and then they'll put it in a diary for the firefighters to come to your house at that time. But what you must understand is, say you booked a time for 2 o'clock, firefighters are still operational, so the aim is to get to your house for 2 o'clock. But sometimes it may not happen because they might be en route to your house, but then or flat. And then what happens is they get a call out. We call it a shout. So they get a shout and they have to attend. So it's no longer going to your house now or flat. It's now to your property. It's now attending a call. And what they would do is from that call, they would try to come to your house or property. If they're at an incident for a very long time, what they'll do is they will recontact the fire safety team, the ones who organise the smoke alarm people coming, who organised, you know, when you phone them up, They're
Yeah.
the one who organised the stations, that the fire station nearest to you, to come and visit your property. They will recontact them, the fire safety team, and reschedule with you a new date. Otherwise, if it's if they're at an incident, like it's only a short incident, they will come round your house, but it could be a bit later. So if the appointment was 2 o'clock and they haven't been there for 2 o'clock, just think they might be attending an incident, as in a call somewhere. You know,
Good.
don't be disheartened. Oh, the fire brigade was supposed to come and haven't come. Don't be disheartened from that, because we're still operational.
Of course. Thank you. Yeah,
Like that.
of course.
It's a pleasure.
For the most urgent, they must go. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, so priority is priority. So they have to attend it, because we are, even though we're coming to put a smoke alarm in your property, we are still operational.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure.
That's helped a lot.
Thank you, Mary. That was a very good question there, and brought up a lot of interesting facts from how it all works out.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a very good question, actually.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Koray.
Pleasure.
I'm just going to give on this recording my email address. So it's anne.sudbury, Anne with an E, at hackneycarers.org.uk. If anybody is listening to this outside of this current live webinar, then feel free to email me for any further information, and we can get back to you. So thank you very much, Koray. I'm going to end this recording now, but we will still be able to chat.
Excellent.